I found the sticky note before I found my pasta pot. Fixed your system. T. My name is Alexandra. I'm 31. I work the evening front desk at a neighbourhood urgent care, and I got home at 11:48 p.m. to a kitchen that didn't belong to me anymore. My husband Dan is 33. We bought this little blue bungalow on a tree-lined street last August, and we've been married 4 years. His mum, Teresa, 62, lives 15 minutes away. His older sister, Rachel, is 35. Her husband, Abel, is 36. Our next-door neighbour, Luna, is 29, and notices things without making a big deal out of it. Those are the people who end up mattering in this story. I hung my keys on the hook and just stood there. The pantry shelves looked like they'd been auditioning for a magazine. Pasta in one row, rice in another, baking on top. But it wasn't my order. The big Dutch oven that usually lives on the front left burner was gone. The dish towels were folded different, tight little squares instead of my lazy thirds. The coffee mugs were switched to the cabinet over the stove, which is the one place they collect grease. On the fridge, the magnet with our lawn service number had been moved to a grid with Essentials scrawled over it in block letters, like a teacher making a chart. The sticky note was stuck to the inside of the upper cabinet. Fixed your system. Tea. I said nope out loud to an empty room. Dan was already in bed. I could hear his sleep-slow breathing down the hall. I didn't want to wake him, so I tried to reverse engineer the kitchen quietly. That lasted for about 2 minutes, until I opened the junk drawer and found everything in labelled baggies: batteries, rubber bands, paper clips. Somebody, not me, had used masking tape and a Sharpie on the inside of the drawer. Miscellaneous, underlined twice. I checked the counter. Our mail, the stack I dumped there before work, was opened and restacked upside down. The water bill flap was torn clean, like someone had used a letter opener. My name was on the envelopes. My chest went hot and then hollow. I texted Dan from 3 rooms away because whispering through the door felt childish. Me. Did your mom come by? He didn't answer. I could have stomped in. Instead, I started hunting the pasta pot because I was starving, and I had exactly enough energy for boiling water and red sauce from a jar. 40 minutes. That's how long it took to find it, squatting on a step stool and tracing the logic of someone who thought ladles belong with grilling tongs and the pot belongs on the top shelf behind the cake stand I use twice a year. I kept my breathing quiet, the way you do when you're holding it together by using your hands. I put water on. I checked the thermostat because my fingers felt cold. It was set to a schedule I didn't recognise, little dots and a low temperature on a graph I never programmed. I nudged it back up. My phone buzzed. A single bubble. Dan. She swung by to drop off soup. That's just how Mum shows love. Be grateful. She means well. I stared at the words until they blurred, shut my eyes, and counted to 10. When I went into the bedroom, Dan shifted and blinked. Hey, he said, voice thick. You good? Your mum was here, I said. She probably organised, he mumbled, already halfway under. She does that for everyone. He yawned. It's a love language. My name was on the mail, I said. I kept my voice level. It was opened. Babe, she doesn't mean anything by it, he said, the line he always uses when he thinks, if we don't make it a problem, it won't be one. Can we talk in the morning? I let him have that because I didn't trust the shape of my words right then. He reached for my hand and missed. He was asleep in seconds. I simmered sauce and ate standing up at the counter, the fork clicking against the bowl in a quiet house that no longer felt fully mine. It's not the big betrayals. Not for me. It's the hours, the 40 minutes I will not get back, alone in a kitchen that should fit my hands. I took the trash out because the sauce jar had that lingering garlic smell I hate in the morning. The night air had a clean bite. Our deck light, the one Dan insists we turn off to save the planet a little, clicked on with the motion. I lifted the bin lid and tossed the bag in, then turned to go back inside. The grill sat in its usual spot, cover pulled down, big black dome shining dull in the porch light. We keep our spare key there, inside a little magnetic box tucked under the lid. Everyone in this neighborhood hides a key somewhere. It's not special. What made me pause was how the grill lid sat, not flush, as if someone had set it down quick and didn't check the edge. It wasn't open enough to be obvious. If you weren't looking, you wouldn't see it. I stood and looked anyway. The lid made a soft, out-of-true shadow on the deck boards. My stomach drew tight. I didn't lift it then. I told myself it was late, that I was being dramatic, that I'd check in the morning with coffee and light and a steady hand. Inside, I washed the one bowl, put it in the rack where I always do, and set the dry towel back on the oven handle. Then I went to bed and stared at the ceiling, the words on that sticky note glowing behind my eyelids like a sign I hadn't agreed to. Morning made everything look normal until I lifted the grill lid. I took my coffee onto the deck because I'd promised myself I'd check in the light. The boards were damp, and the air had that thin chill that smells like wet wood. The grill sat where it always sits, cover down, a faint smear of grease on the handle from last weekend. I cracked the lid and slid my fingers to the underside where the little magnetic box lives. Empty. The magnet was there. The box snapped open, but the slot where the key should be was just black plastic. No glint of brass, no spare. My stomach dipped. I set my mug on the rail and texted Dan. Me. Did you take the spare key? He was already up. His reply came while I was still staring at the empty box. Dan. I must have forgotten to put it back. Me. Put what back? The grill key is gone. 3 dots, they came and went twice. Dan. Okay. Mom might have borrowed it when she stopped by. She said something about the fern looking thirsty. I'll get it back today. Me. She borrowed our house key? Dan. It's just the spare. I'll call her. Not a big deal. I took a breath and let it out slowly, the way the triage nurse at work teaches patients when their hearts feel fast. I carried my coffee inside and set it on the counter next to the stack of mail I'd put back in some kind of order last night. The torn water bill sat on top, the flap cleanly sliced. I slid my finger under it and made myself read the date like I was some kind of responsible adult and not the person whose mother-in-law had rearranged the towels. My phone buzzed again, different tone. Teresa. A photo filled the screen. Our junk drawer, the one by the fridge, and I knew it was ours because of the scuffed bottle opener and the red flashlight. Everything was nested in little trays with labels, batteries, rubber bands, pens, paper clips. The masking tape label I'd seen, miscellaneous, was now 3 separate tags, all straight as a ruler. You're welcome, she wrote, followed by a row of little tag emojis and a smiley with hearts. I stared at the photo for 3 seconds, then typed what I meant. Me. Please don't come in when we're not home. Dots. Then, Teresa. Of course, sweetie. Just trying to help. Another photo arrived before I could answer. Our bills, gathered from wherever she'd found them last night, rubber-banded into neat little bundles. Electric, water, internet. She'd written the words on sticky flags and stuck them like tabs. Streamlined so you don't miss anything, her text said. I set the phone down on the counter and pulled the actual stack toward me. Water? Check. Internet? Check. Trash pickup reminder? Check. I looked for the electric bill flag I'd just seen in her photo and felt the empty spot where it should have been in the pile, like someone had taken a piece out of my brain. I flipped the stack over, then back, then checked the floor in case it had slipped. Nothing. Me. Where is the electric bill? I deleted it before sending. A question was an invitation to a conversation I didn't want to have over text. I checked the mail tray by the door. I checked between the cookbooks because that's where Dan sometimes tucks things he doesn't want to look at. I checked the recycling, which I hadn't taken out yet. Catalogues, grocery circulars, no bill. Dan again. Dan. I talked to her. She said she was trying to make it easier. She has the spare. She'll return it. Me. Did she take a bill? Dan. She said she just grouped them. Maybe you moved it when you were sorting. I looked at the spotless little essentials grid on my fridge and had to laugh once, a sharp little bark that wasn't humour. Me. I didn't move it. There was a pause long enough for me to rinse my coffee mug and decide to look one more place. I pulled open the junk drawer, the one from the photo, because maybe she'd tucked it there logically under her new system. Pens, rubber bands, batteries, no paper. The masking tape labels looked back at me like they were certain. Teresa again. Teresa. I'll stay out of your hair, dear. I only want to support you. Busy day. Kisses. The of course and the kisses landed with the photo of my life sorted into piles I hadn't asked for. I could hear my own voice from last night. Please don't come in when we're not home. I had said the thing out loud. It should have been simple. I went room to room with the stack, just to be sure I wasn't missing the obvious. The office corner by the window, where we keep the laptop. The basket by the couch where we throw things when company comes. Nothing. I opened the cabinet where the pasta lives again now because I put it back, and stood there for a second just to feel like I could control one small square of my house. Me to Dan. Electric bill is missing? Dan. I'll swing by Mum's at lunch and ask. I'm sure it's here somewhere. Don't stress. I put the mail back down and pressed my palm flat on the counter until the feeling passed. The house looked fine in daylight. My towel hung like I left it. The magnets were in my order. Somewhere, a key I hadn't given permission for was in someone else's pocket, and a bill we needed to pay had vanished into a system I didn't agree to. I checked the grill one more time, like the key might have reappeared just because I wanted it to. The box was still empty. The lid settled perfectly this time, flush with the edge. By late afternoon, Dan still hadn't brought the spare back. Dan. Swung by at lunch. She wasn't home. I'll grab it after work. Me. Please do. I slid my badge into my pocket and stepped onto the porch. Luna was at her mailbox in a hoodie and flip-flops, hair up with a pencil through it. She lifted her chin at me. Hey, you got a sec? Yeah, I said, locking the door that no longer felt like it locked. She walked closer, low voice like she was telling me a secret I might not want. I saw Teresa earlier, around noon. She had your watering can. I waved, but she didn't see me. I could see her through your window, watering the fern. Sorry I didn't text. I wasn't sure if it was a thing. It's a thing, I said. My smile felt tight. Thanks for telling me. I'll keep an eye out, she said. She hesitated. You okay? I will be, I said. I have to go clock in. On my break at 7:20, I sat on a plastic chair behind the urgent care and dialed Teresa. She picked up on the second ring, voice sunny. Hi, dear. Teresa, did you come by today? I kept it even. Just to water that poor fern. It was gasping. You two are so busy. She laughed. I borrowed the spare like we do in this family access. Please don't come in when we're not home, I said. I meant what I texted. Oh, sweetheart, a little sigh. You're being sensitive. I'm not rifling through your underwear. I'm keeping your home tidy and hydrated. The way she said your sounded like a correction. You opened our mail, I said. The electric bill is missing. I grouped them, she said, and I could hear the smile. You'll thank me when you're not losing things. I know where my things are, I said. I need the spare key back, and I need you to stop coming in without us here. A beat of silence. When she spoke again, her voice dropped into that soft, patient register she uses when she's winning. I'm just preparing your home for how you'll want it, dear. Systems make life easier. You'll see when you have kids. We don't have kids, I said. Bring the key back, please. I'll pop by tomorrow, she said briskly, as if I'd ordered curtains. Kisses. The line clicked. I stared at my phone until my break was over. When I got home at 11:52, the house met me with a slap of cold air. I rubbed my arms and went straight to the thermostat. The screen glowed with a graph, a little dot plunging at 9 p.m. like a ski slope. Hold ended, it read. Schedule resumed. I touched it up a few degrees and felt the vents cough to life. The fern looked fine. I stood in the kitchen with my coat still on and checked the counter for anything new. The mail stack sat like a dare. I rinsed my travel mug and wiped a dry ring, the bottom left on the island. My phone buzzed. Subject: payment past due. From the electric company. Balance now includes a $25 late fee. My chest tightened. I yanked open the junk drawer, pulled out the little trays Teresa had wedged in there, and set them on the counter one by one. Pens, rubber bands, batteries, a tape measure. The last divider had a taped label that said, MISC. I pried the divider up, and there it was, slid underneath like a shim. The electric bill opened, the top corner folded sharp as an arrow. I laid it flat. Amount due included an extra line. Late fee 25s. Due date was last week. We're not usually late. We auto-pay a lot of things. But Dan insists on paper for utilities because he likes to see the numbers. I could hear him saying it. I carried the bill into the bedroom. Dan rolled over, one eye open, hair smashed flat on one side. Hey, you okay? She came in today, I said. Luna saw her. The house was freezing when I got home. The electric bill was under the drawer organizer labelled MISC. We got a late fee. He blinked hard, processing. Babe, I tried to get the key. She wasn't home. You told me that. I held up the bill. This cost us money. It's not just towels and labels. He sat up a little, rubbed his face. Okay, he said slowly. Okay, I'll talk to her again. Or, he swallowed, maybe we should invite them over. Sunday, dinner. We can, I don't know, smooth this out with everyone there. Lay it out. Neutral ground. It landed like a piece of furniture no one had measured. A family dinner to tell your mum to stop breaking in. It's not breaking in, he said reflexively, then winced. I mean, you know what I mean. If Rachel's there, Mum might actually hear it, and it won't be just you and her. I looked at the bill again, the neat font of the late fee line. I thought about Teresa's patient voice, the way she had already moved on to tomorrow. Fine, I said. Sunday. He reached for my hand. We'll fix it. I didn't answer. The heat finally reached the bedroom, a soft whoosh through the vent. It didn't touch the cold place in my chest. Saturday, I made coffee and put the electric bill on the counter where Dan would see it. He came out in sweats, rubbing his eyes. I need you to tell your mum to stop coming in when we're not here, I said. No more spare key. No family access. He looked at the bill, winced. I'll handle it. I'm having lunch with her anyway. I'll bring it up. Bring the key back, I said. He nodded. I will. He kissed my cheek and left with his gym bag and a promise that felt light in the air. I cleaned the counter like a person with a small square of control, then sat on the step and tied my sneakers for a quick walk before my shift. The grill lid sat flush, neat as a lie. Around 1, my phone buzzed. Dan, with Mum, talking. 10 minutes later. Dan, she didn't mean it like that. You know how she is. She says she was just trying to help. Family looks out for each other. I stared at the words. I typed. Deleted. Typed again. Me. Family also asks, did you get the key? Dan. She said she returned it. She thought the fern looked bad and adjusted the thermostat schedule because it's more efficient. She says she'll text next time. Me. There isn't a next time. Please tell her that. The key needs to stay with us. Dan. I'll tell her again. Let's just save the rest for tomorrow. Dinner will make it easier. My throat felt tight. I sent a thumbs up because I didn't have a neutral sentence available. At 2, Rachel texted the family thread. Farmer's market by the church. Come say hi. I'm by the honey guy. I was dressed for work. Dan texted me separately. 5 minutes? They're there. Able to. I can meet you. Neutral ground. I went because not going would be a different argument. The market smelled like kettle corn and cut basil. Rachel wore sunglasses and a straw hat like she was born for stalls and samples. Abel stood beside her, hands in his pockets, a paper bag looped over his wrist. There she is, Rachel said, leaning in for a quick hug. How's the pantry? Mum said she rescued it. It was crying for help. She laughed and popped a grape tomato in her mouth. Just kidding. Kind of. Dan shot me a look that said, "Please don't light this on fire." Abel offered me a small smile, the kind that says he's watching and not adding kindling. "I like my pantry the way I set it up," I said. My voice was even. "And my mail closed." Rachel's eyebrows lifted. "She opened your mail? Mum." She said it like a sitcom. "She used to do that at mine. Drove me crazy for like a week. And then I realised it's kind of nice. I don't have to think." "I like thinking," I said. Teresa wasn't there, which made everything looser and also more frustrating. People streamed past with bouquets and coffee. Someone's toddler dropped a blueberry and burst into tears. Dan touched my elbow. "We'll talk tomorrow," he murmured. Rachel rolled her eyes like tomorrow was a production. "If this is about rules, maybe just, I don't know, text them. Mum loves a list. You know how she is." She took Abel's bag and peered inside. "Did you get the big peaches?" "I got the big peaches," he said. I glanced at the time and tapped Dan's arm. "I have to clock in." He walked me to the curb. "She said she'll text," he said again, as if repetition could make it true. "She thinks the grill key is convenient if she needs to drop soup." "It's convenient for her," I said. "It's not safe for me." He nodded. The smallest concession. "We'll fix it tomorrow." I did my shift, checked and sprained ankles, printed wristbands, smiled at a feverish toddler who threw a sticker at my desk. On my break, I scrolled my phone with one hand and ate almonds with the other. No new texts from Teresa, none from Dan. It was full dusk when I got home. The porch light clicked on with my motion. I set my bag on the bench and lifted the grill lid because I needed a fact. The magnetic box was there. I popped it open. The brass winked back at me like nothing had ever happened, like my stomach hadn't been in a knot for 2 days. The key was a little grease smudged along the top, like someone had handled it with hamburger hands and wiped it on a paper towel. I slid it out, held it up in the porch light. Dan came up behind me, keys jangling. "It's back," I said. He exhaled. "See? She heard you." "No," I said. I set the spare in my palm and closed my fist around it. "This ends now." His face changed. Not angry, not yet, but tighter, like he was bracing. "Let's just make it through dinner," he said. "We'll set whatever we need to set." I closed the grill, put the magnetic box back exactly where it goes, and went inside. I set the spare on the counter next to the electric bill, a little still life of what needed fixing. My phone buzzed. A photo filled the screen. Under our kitchen sink, everything in a straight parade, sprays lined up by height, sponges in a little caddy, extra paper towels stacked like a store display. Each bottle had a strip of masking tape with its name in neat block letters. Degreaser, glass, multi-surface. I tackled under-sink clutter this morning. "You're welcome." I felt the words hit the air between me and Dan. He looked at the screen, then at me. "Tomorrow," he said, barely above a whisper. "Tomorrow," I said. And then, because I needed to hear myself say something solid out loud, "and no more keys." Sunday morning, I opened the cabinet under the sink, and the smell of plastic hit me. The sprays were lined up by brand, labels facing forward, sponges stacked like poker chips. Strips of masking tape announced what everything was, as if the actual labels weren't enough. Degreaser, glass, multi-surface. The little caddy had sponges written on it, neat block letters. It looked like a store display. It didn't look like my house. I closed the cabinet and grabbed my keys. "Where are you going?" Dan called from the bedroom. "Hardware store," I said. "Back in an hour." He came to the hallway, hair a mess, t-shirt inside out. "We're doing this now?" "The spare is back," I said, nodding toward the counter where I'd left it next to the electric bill. "But that doesn't mean this doesn't happen again. I want a keypad." "No more hiding keys in the grill." He rubbed his eyes. "We should have talked." "We've been talking," I said. "You said dinner would make it easier. A locked door will make it clearer." The store was quiet. That Sunday morning lull where the only people there are retirees in cargo vests and one teenager getting paid to face shelves. I stood too long in the lock aisle, fingers tracing plastic clamshell packages. The keypad deadbolt I picked had big buttons you could hit with your thumb and a simple manual, the kind with pictures. I matched it with a new handle set so the finish wouldn't clash. The total was $129 with tax. My palms were slick, signing the screen. Back home, I set the box on the entry bench and took a breath. The front door is original to the house. The wood is a little soft around the screw holes, and I didn't want to strip anything. I laid out the parts on a towel like I was prepping for surgery. Old deadbolt out first. 2 long screws, faceplate off, guts slid from the edge of the door with a little wiggle. New latch in, strike plate lined up, 2 short screws. I moved slowly, counting, not forcing. Luna's screen door squeaked next door. "You renovating or robbing yourself?" she called lightly. "Upgrading," I said, holding the new keypad up so she could see. She came over in slip-on sneakers, peered at the towel. "Nice." "Want me to hold the door?" "Yes, please." I lowered my shoulder against the door so it didn't fall forward on the hinges, while I threaded the cable from the keypad through the hole. "We're done hiding keys in the grill." Luna's mouth did a quick, sympathetic line. "Good." We worked in companionable silence. I fed the tailpiece through the latch, lined up the interior plate, and tightened everything by hand before I used the screwdriver so I wouldn't over-tighten and split something. Luna braced the edge when I needed to push. The house was quiet in that way that makes every screw turn sound loud. "You okay?" she asked when I had to stop and shake out my hand. "I will be," I said. "We're going to have them over. Soon. Lay this out." "I can be home," she said. "If you need anything. Or if you need to show up on my porch for 5 minutes." I smiled at that. "Thanks." Dan walked in halfway through the handle set swap. Paper cups of coffee in a carrier. He stopped when he saw the door open and the guts of it on my towel. "We should have talked," he said again, automatic. "We've been talking," I said without looking up. "This is me listening to myself." He set the coffee on the console and watched my hands. After a second, he squeezed the bridge of his nose and nodded, slow and pale. "Okay." The last screws went in flush. I slid the battery into the interior unit, snapped the cover on, and hit the program button. The keypad lit up soft blue. I entered a code I could remember without writing it down, the kind of number that lives in your head already, and the bolt threw itself with a clean mechanical chunk. I tried the knob. Solid. I unlocked and relocked it again, just to hear the sound. "Your turn," I said to Dan, handing him the code. He punched it and the mechanism whirred. It felt like a line drawing itself at the threshold. We moved to the back door. I didn't buy a second keypad. For now, a matching key deadbolt would do. I swapped it out fast, using the momentum from the front. When I tightened the last screw, I leaned my forehead against the cool wood for 2 breaths. Dan held out a coffee. "Truce latte." I took it. "We're not fighting." He nodded. "I'll back you?" He looked like he meant it, and also like it cost him something to say. Inside, I gathered the old deadbolt and the spare key from the counter. The key felt heavier than it should. I opened the junk drawer that now had tidy little labelled trays and slipped a small blank envelope from the stack where we keep stamps. I slid the spare inside and left the flap open. I didn't seal it yet, not until I wrote what needed to go with it. I tapped the envelope twice with my fingertip and closed the drawer. "Let's test it one more time," I said. We stepped onto the porch. Dan locked the door from the inside. I pulled it shut behind us. The keypad's blue light woke at my touch. I entered the code. Inside, the bolt withdrew with that same clean sound. He handed me the coffee back. "So, dinner?" "Text them," I said. "5 works. I'll make something I can make, even if everything goes sideways." He took out his phone, jaw set like he was about to lift something heavy. I took another sip and looked at our door. It looked the same as it always had. It just finally worked for us. I emptied a shoebox and started peeling. The masking tape came off in thin curls. Spices, snacks, misc, baking, even a bossy little arrow inside the junk drawer pointing to pens. I stacked the labels by type, rubber-banded them into neat little bundles like I was keeping exhibits for a hearing. Under the sink, I pulled the strips from the spray bottles and lined them on the counter. The plastic smell made my mouth taste like pennies. When I was done, the kitchen looked like my kitchen again. A little sloppy, a little alive. Dan wandered in, checked the time on the oven. "Need help?" "I've got it," I said. "I'm making something I could make half asleep." "Ziti?" he guessed, because he knows me. "Ziti." I boiled water and browned sausage in the shallow Dutch oven that belongs on the front left burner, because that's where it works best. I salted the pasta like I meant it, stirred in ricotta and jarred sauce and a handful of basil I clipped from the pot by the window. I grated a snowfall of mozzarella and slid the whole thing into the oven to melt into itself. Bagged salad into a bowl, garlic bread on a tray. If everything went sideways, the food would still be edible. While it baked, I sat at the island with an index card and a Sharpie. At the top, I wrote house rules. Then, in the same plain block letters Teresa favours, I numbered 1. Call or text before stopping by. 2. No entering when we're out. 3. Guest key for emergencies only. Underlined once. No speech, no sermon, just the facts. I pulled the little envelope from the junk drawer and set it open on the counter. The old brass spare from the grill went in first. A relic now, the new locks making it just a symbol. From the keypad box, I took one of the backup keys and slid it into a small manila tag I'd punched a hole in. I wrote in block letters, guest key for emergencies only. The tag dangled from the new key like a tiny sign. I added the index card. I didn't seal the envelope. I wanted the message to breathe. Dan read the card over my shoulder. He swallowed. "This is clear." "That's the point," I said. He nodded, something loosening in his face. "I'll back you." His phone buzzed. He glanced at it. "Mum, see you at 5. Rachel. We'll bring a pie. Abel wants to try that new place." "Perfect," I said, and I meant it. Dessert outsourced. Fewer variables. I wiped the counters, set 4 plates, 4 forks, 4 water glasses. I put the shoebox of labels on the sideboard, not to wield like a weapon, but so I could point if someone pretended not to understand scope. Luna's text popped up. A single thumbs up and a soup emoji, and then, "I'll be home if you need a second." I sent back a heart. At 4:30, the ZT came out bubbling in gold. I let it rest so it would cut clean. The house smelled like tomato and bread and the tiniest bit of courage. Dan hovered, checking his phone like it might tell him how to be 2 people at once. "Do you want me to say it?" he asked low. "Or do you want to?" "Both," I said. "You start, I'll finish." He nodded, relief and dread in one motion. I put the envelope on the table, edge aligned with a placemat. The tag on the guest key winked up at me. I could imagine Teresa's eyes catching on it. I hoped she'd see the kindness in it. Not a shut door, a safer one. The keypad chirped when I tested it again, the bolt throwing and withdrawing with that clean sound I'd fallen a little in love with this morning. I half expected to see our old life tumble out when I opened the door, like a closet overstuffed with other people's systems. Instead, the entry held our shoes and my purse and nothing else. At 4:57, Dan poured water. At 4:58, he wiped an invisible spot on the table. At 4:59, I slid the garlic bread to a trivet and tucked a dish towel into the oven handle. At 5 o'clock sharp, metal scraped softly against the new deadbolt. It was a small sound, like a fork against a plate in another room, but it stopped the house. Dan and I looked at each other. In the half-second before anything else happened, I pictured the old brass teeth of a key trying a lock it once knew and finding the tumblers changed. I pictured the look she might have, not angry, just surprised that the world no longer arranged itself around her hand. I smoothed my palm over the envelope once, like you'd smooth a napkin, then walked to the door. The blue backlight of the keypad glowed like a quiet boundary. I took a breath, punched in our code, and turned the handle. Teresa stood on the porch with her hand still on the old brass key like a magician surprised her trick didn't land. Her eyes flicked to the keypad's blue glow, then to my face. I smiled the kind of smile you practice for customer service and family. "Hi," I said. "Come in." Behind her, Rachel and Abel were halfway up the walk, a white pie box balanced on Abel's forearm. Teresa stepped inside, tucking the useless key into her purse with a small, embarrassed movement. "New lock," she said, voice breezy but a half-step high. "Fancy." "We changed the locks," I said. It was time. Rachel kissed the air near my cheek. "We brought lemon meringue. Abel says the crust's legit." "Smells amazing in here," Abel added, eyes taking in the table, the ziti resting, the envelope set square. He clocked it and looked away, polite. We did coats and hellos. Teresa's attention drifted to the kitchen like muscle memory. I watched her look at the counter, the cabinet doors. Her hands stayed by her sides. "Water?" Dan said, already moving to pour. "Yes, please," Teresa said, smoothing the strap of her purse. We sat. I put the ziti on a trivet and the salad bowl in the middle. The envelope waited at Teresa's place, but I kept my hand on it for one more second, like you'd keep a dog from bolting. "Thanks for coming," Dan started, voice steady but quiet. He looked at his mother, then at his sister. "We wanted to clear up some things. We love seeing you. We want you here, but we need you to text or call before you come by. And we need you to not come in when we're not home." Teresa blinked. Her cheeks went pink. "I was dropping soup," she said softly. "I was watering the fern. "I know," Dan said, and it was the first time in days he didn't flinch from the sentence. "But it hasn't been working for us." I slid the envelope across the table to Teresa. The paper made a small sound on wood. "This will make it easier." She looked at it like it might be a test, then picked it up and eased the flap back. The index card sat on top. House rules, the 3 lines in plain black. Under it, the old brass spare from the grill glinted uselessly. Her mouth tightened at that. Then her fingers found the tagged key. Guest key for emergencies only. Her eyes snagged there. She read it twice. The flush climbed to her ears. Rachel put her elbow on the table and did a little exhale that was almost a laugh. "Isn't this a little formal?" Dan didn't look at her. "These are our rules," he said. I signed off. Something in the room shifted. Teresa's shoulders sank for a second, like a sail losing wind, then lifted again into place. She nodded once, small and measured. "Understood," she said. Her voice was thin but even. "Thank you," I said. "We want you to have the guest key. If we're here and you text, we'll open the door. If there's an actual emergency, use it. Otherwise, knock." Abel cleared his throat. "Ziti's going to congeal if we don't eat it," he said gently, and everyone let out a little breath. We served ourselves. Plates clinked. Dan asked Abel about the pie place. Rachel launched into a story about a farmer who tried to sell her artisan zucchini, and the table found surface chatter like a lifeline. Teresa ate quietly, eyes touching down on the cabinets and the stove, like she was orienting herself to a room she knew but didn't control. Halfway through, she set her fork down. "I adjusted your thermostat because you were wasting money," she said to the table, like a confession she needed to release. "I thought it would help." "The house was 49 degrees when I got home from work," I said, not unkindly. "We got a late fee on the electric. It didn't help." She looked at the envelope again, then at me. "All right," she said. "I hear you." Rachel swiped her finger through a bubble of cheese. "You could have just hashed this out on the family thread," she muttered. "You know, Mum loves lists." "This is the list," Dan said. We finished, and I brought plates to the sink. Teresa stood automatically, then glanced at me and dropped her hands uncertain. "You can sit," I said. "I've got it." She sat. The lemon meringue came out of its box in clean wedges. Abel complimented the crust. Rachel took pictures for her stories. Dan refilled waters and kissed my shoulder when no one was looking. When the last plates were stacked, Teresa lifted her eyes to mine. Careful now. Would you mind showing me where things are? She said, the pause deliberate. Since I won't be moving them. I nodded. After dessert, I said. I'll walk you through. And I'll write it down if you want. She let out a breath I hadn't realised she was holding. Thank you, she said, fingers resting on the guest key tag like it might steady her. In the quiet between sentences, the house felt like it belonged to me again. The blue backlight of the keypad glowed faintly down the hall. The envelope sat open on the table, rules in plain sight, the tag catching the light every time someone passed a plate. 2 Sundays after that dinner, a light knock came first. Then my phone buzzed on the counter. Dropping off soup. Okay to come in? I wiped my hands on a towel and typed back, Give me 5. When I opened the door, Teresa stood on the porch with a mason jar cradled in both hands, like it might break if she breathed wrong. A strip of masking tape on the lid read, Chicken noodle, wed, in those tidy block letters. She glanced at the keypad and then at me. Hi, she said. Come in, I said, and I stepped back and held the door. She stopped just inside, waiting. Her eyes moved around the room the way someone's do when they're remembering a layout. After dessert that first night, I'd walked her through where things live now. Showed her the pot spot, the spice shelf, the drawer with the bottle opener and the red flashlight. She'd tucked the little index card I wrote into her purse. Today, her hands stayed wrapped around the jar. Where would you like it? She asked. Counter by the stove is perfect, I said. I watched her set it down exactly where I pointed, and not an inch to the left. No lid twisting, no casual straightening of the towel draped on the oven handle. The label made me smile despite myself. Coffee? I offered, because it felt like the next right thing, and because I wanted to watch us do this like normal people. She nodded. Half, if you have it. We stood in the kitchen without bumping. I poured and added a splash of milk. She kept her hands visible, palms around the mug. Luna appeared briefly at her mailbox and shot me a little thumbs up over the hedge. I lifted my chin back. Teresa took a sip, then set the mug down on the coaster. I put the rules card on my fridge, she said, not looking at me, like it was easier to tell the air. I read it twice? Thank you, I said. She touched the tag hanging from a key on her ring and held it up. Guest key, for emergencies only. The words were a little smudged from her thumb. This is on its own ring, she said, so I don't grab it without thinking. That works, I said. We let the quiet be quiet. She took another sip, then a breath that sounded like she was stepping onto a new floor. Rachel reorganized my pantry last month, she said. As a joke. She gave a small, rueful laugh. She put the pasta where I keep the baking, swapped the oils and the vinegars. I pretended it was funny. It made me crazy for a week. I couldn't help it. A laugh escaped. I'm sorry, I said. And also, not sorry. I know, she said, a little smile that didn't quite reach her eyes. I didn't connect it. Not really. I thought I was helping. I like order. It feels like love to me. She looked up then. It doesn't feel like that to you. It feels like somebody else's hands in my life, I said, matter of fact. She nodded. Understood. She said it the same way as at dinner, but this time it didn't sound like a bruise. I can ask where the pot goes, I can text, I can wait on the porch with soup. You're doing it, I said. This is good. We didn't hug. We talked about Abel's new project and what basil does when it gets too much sun. She finished her coffee and rinsed her mug without moving anything else, then set it upside down on the rack right where I keep it. Before she left, she glanced at the thermostat and then at me. I won't touch that, she said, almost sheepish. We set our own schedule, I said. Dan figured out how to lock the buttons. Good, she said, like she meant it. When she stood, she reached for the jar, then thought better, and left it where it was. I'll text next time, she said at the door, before I leave the driveway. Okay, I said. We'll open the door. After she went, I ladled a little soup into a bowl and ate it standing up. It was good. She does know how to cook. I took a picture of the label and sent it to Dan. Look what just got dropped off. Knock plus text. Hands kept to herself. Proud of Mum, he texted back. Proud of us. That night, without me prompting, he turned off the TV and slid onto the counter stool while I packed leftovers. I'm sorry, he said, for making you carry it, for calling it love when it didn't feel like it to you. He tapped the rules card on the side of the fridge. I'll keep this front and centre, with Mum, with Rachel. Okay, I said, and I believed him. He'd already called the electric company the day after dinner and paid the fee. He switched the utilities to email notifications, even though he likes paper. The thermostat's schedule stayed where we set it. The junk drawer had pens and batteries and no labels. On Wednesday, Teresa texted a photo of a grocery aisle and asked if we needed anything from the store. On Friday, she knocked. And when I didn't answer right away because my hands were in dishwater, she texted, waiting on the porch, no rush. Rachel sent a link to a pie recipe and a snarky caption. She hasn't touched my pantry. Abel asked for the ZT recipe and got it. The house is quiet in the best way now. The keypad gives a soft beep when we come home. The fern looks fine because I water it on Sundays. The envelope with the old brass key sits in the drawer like a story we told and finished. The kitchen stays where I leave it, and so does my peace.